Star Wars Jedi Survivor is the highly anticipated sequel to Fallen Order from Respawn, the developers of Apex and Titanfall. Fallen Order, a game that launched back in 2019 to amazing reviews across the board, is the original. The original game masterfully combined combat and puzzles within a world that's carefully curated by passionate Star Wars fans. With Jedi Survivor, Respawn does their best to have lightning strike twice, creating a sequel that's bigger and bolder than the original. Sadly, the game has been littered with nothing but controversy thanks to yet another really bad PC port. Sadly, I bought this one on PC and not my PS5 for some reason. With a ton of great games that are coming out this year, should you buy Jedi Survivor in its current state, or is this something that people should wait for a sale on? I'll start off with the story of the game. If you haven't played the first game, there is an intro, refresh, flashback type of thing. Explains things to you, but it's nowhere near enough for someone to just pick up and just play. Can you technically play this without playing the first? Yes, but I really recommend against it. The game is just so good. You should definitely experience the first one. The new game takes place about 5 years after the first one, I think. It pits Cal Kestis against the Empire yet again. This time though, you do land on this new western desert-like planet where you meet a droid named Z and discover some really cool and interesting High Republic plans that include a hidden planet called Tanalorr. Cal can definitely hide out from the Imperial Army there and continue his life as a Jedi without having to watch his back. The story ends up becoming just a MacGuffin chase, with you looking for a compass that will lead you to this planet. It's kind of like the Rise of Skywalker if you really think about it. Enemies here are the Imperial Army, of course, but this new group called the Bedlam Raiders, as well as some other enemies that I don't want to spoil. The story starts off with a thrilling infiltrate and escape mission, and it basically will lead you planet to planet just like the first game where you're discovering clues about Tanalorr. The best part of the story though, it comes down to the character development that they gave to Cal and his crew. There's segments where your allies even help you out within combat. Allies are just such a big part of this game. The story really just comes down to a much deeper conflict that Cal has within himself, the dark side, loss, and even fear. By the end it gets pretty deep and is really engaging, especially considering that the middle kind of starts to get boring. To spice up the game, Respawn combines puzzles, platforming, and combat really well here again to have a combat system that takes everything that you liked from the first game and just makes it better. Cal doesn't bump his head here and forget all of his force training, so you start out strong. You get push, pull, a double jump, wall running Titanfall 2 style, dual sabers, a Darth Maul style saber, and a balanced single saber. There's a couple more lightsaber stances that get unlocked, one being the blaster that has you hold a blaster and a saber in the other hand, giving you ranged and close combat. You also get a crossguard stance, which is basically like holding a heavy greatsword. Each stance is helpful against certain enemies, but the complaint I had here was really just the skill point limitation. The way they work these upgrades, you're really only able to max out a couple of the stances by the end of the game. So you end up focusing on just the two that you like, and you really start to neglect the others. I've seen blaster footage, and I just really regret not maining that one. I ended up going with the dual sabers and the Kylo Ren style crossguard. On top of being a bigger game this time around, there's even more customization. The last game focused on ponchos, but here, all the chests that you find, rewards from side missions, gets you new haircuts, new clothes, perks, metal colors for your saber, beards, and even BD1 parts and colors. There's a crazy amount of customization here that any Star Wars fan will definitely appreciate, and it really helps make Cal Kestis feel like your Jedi. I think this is the closest we've gotten to making our own Jedi since maybe Knights of the Old Republic. Respawn also took feedback from the last game and they improved the checkpoint system. The game is not easy and can be adjusted. You get way more shortcuts here to limit backtracking if and when you die. You also just backtrack a lot less. BD1 doesn't immediately give you the answer to the puzzles like in other games, unless you just let him. There's just so much done right, I think, in this sequel. I was really impressed at first. A last thing I do want to touch on is the home base planet. You get this home planet that grows the more you save people. The home planet is huge and filled with side missions and areas, as well as some bounty hunters that lead to even more rewards. The area to me is really awesome for anyone that's trying to 100% a game, or spend just at least a lot of time in it. There's a lot to do for anyone that's a completionist. I was able to get some side missions done as I was going through the game, and I beat the game in about 17 hours. There's definitely another maybe 7 hours of content to go through though, especially if you're trying to see and do everything. With all the improvements, the game is definitely just a slam dunk. I want to touch on performance in a bit because that's the main issue here, but I did want to mention some other things that I thought weren't really as good this time around. The Bedlam Raiders and all of the villains in my opinion really just sucked. They don't really feel too threatening or human really. They're really just more evil just to be evil. I thought the second sister from the first game was just a lot better. The story does start to get old by the middle too, and you can kind of see the big twist coming. I also just didn't like being limited with the stances like I mentioned earlier, and I wish they kind of did those upgrades a little differently. Also, once I started realizing that I wasn't getting much out of the side missions except for really just cosmetics, I kind of didn't care for them. I'm usually a side mission completionist type of person, but finding a fisherman or going into a mine, it just wasn't too fun to me. The side missions really just didn't capture my interest or really motivate me to finish them. The last complaint I have is the one everyone sees coming. PC performance is just not good. I'm way too small of a channel to get codes, so I got to play this after the patches. I even went through maybe 3 patches because it looks like EA is trying to crank these out. My intro to the game was the game not being able to launch and just insta-crashing. I had to repair the game and wait an hour for it to get, even just for it to open. I mained about 45 frames, just like everyone else, using RTX 3080. Think I have a Ryzen 5 5600 or whatever that is, but no matter what, whatever I did, 45 frames was kind of the average. I would get 60 here and there. I was playing on 4K, but it really just wasn't that steady and definitely would drop, especially in the open areas. The worst part about the game is that it would drop to like 8 frames at times. I do want to preface though, I'm a brand new PC gamer. I haven't been playing PC for that long, and my eyes are honestly just used to the whole Xbox or PlayStation style. Consoles really have just ruined my eyes. So for me, the performance, the frame rate stutters, it wasn't that bad unless it dropped to like a ridiculous level. I know a lot of people want to play at 60, and I would have loved to play at 60. You know, even on console, I'm normally running games on performance mode, but 45, just, it wasn't too bad. It really isn't that, you know, game breaking, but there were certain things that just kept pulling me out of my experience. I mean, cutscenes have capes that are vibrating and clothing, and you know, those frame rate issues where it would hit 8 frames, especially during combat. I had 0 crashes besides my install though, and I've heard nothing but horrible things about PC performance to where it's really at a 57% right now on Steam. A game that, keep in mind, I had nothing but good things to say about earlier in the review. I think it's just really sad that a sequel that's this good is being overshadowed by just a really bad PC launch. And I have to honestly say that I agree with the masses here. I get my performance as an outlier. I know 45 isn't too bad. I definitely understand that other people have way worse, but I really did get those enough bugs that just kind of pulled me out of the amazing experience of the game. You could tell Respawn here is nothing but diehard Star Wars nerds, and I love that, but the game just needed another month to at least cook. Xbox and PS5 are probably the console that you want to get this on, but you know, these are brand new next-gen consoles, and I know some people that have crashing during boss fights on Xbox, which is super frustrating. And I mean, the boss fights are not easy at all, guys. For some reason in 2023, they have this mentality of launch it and we'll fix it later, and it's just become the new norm. As much as I like the game, I have to be objective about its launch. I mean, just look at how much Redfall is being shit on right now for its performance and bugs. We can't just pick and choose what games to care about and give a clearly rushed job here a pass. My score for Jedi Survivor is an 8 out of 10, and to give perspective on my score, if I had to review Fallen Order, the previous game, I would also give that game an 8 out of 10. This game is bigger and better than the original in almost every way. It's a clear 9 out of 10. I mean, I hate that I have to give it an 8. I know an 8's not a bad score, but it's a 9. The bad guys are kind of lame. The story does get to drag kind of in the middle, but bad performance when we drop $70 for a game right now is just inexcusable. People shouldn't be having game-breaking crashes, having them start all over from the beginning, or even just constant low frame rate in a game that relies on combat, timing, and parrying. The game does so much right, and I just hate having to give it that score, but I mean, I can't help but say that I think you need to buy this later when it's fixed or when it's on sale. I think it's a game worth playing, but I think people should give it a little bit of time for some patches to come clean the game up. Respawn took every complaint people had about Fallen Order and they fixed it here, adding fast travel, less backtracking, more combat options, more customization, bigger worlds, awesome set pieces for missions. It's just a shame that they dropped the ball here with the launch of a game that's really just so good. If you made it this far, thanks again for watching the review. I know it's a little late, I did just finish the game, but I really just had to get my opinion out on this one. Drop a comment, let me know what you think. If you played it, how was your game like? If you made it this far, be sure to hit like if you liked the video, and don't forget to hit subscribe and not miss another video game review. Thanks guys.